All right, hello everyone. Again, this is Black Man Let's Talk. Once again, I'm your host, Demetrius Stone. Super excited today to have Gary Simon with me. Gary's currently the executive director at Sacramento Juneteenth Incorporated, and really excited to have a conversation this morning. So, Gary, how are you this morning?
I am good, man. How are you?
I'm great, man. I'm great. Thanks for joining me. Everyone may be listening to this podcast at a different time in the new year, but we're currently recording this on New Year's Eve morning.
Right.
So I wanted to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2023. Excellent. So Gary, let's jump right in. I want to give you a chance to kind of introduce yourself, let everyone know kind of, where were you born and raised, and kind of what you've been doing in the Sacramento community, and any future plans you have.
Well, okay. Well, first of all, thank you for having me this morning. Like I said, my name is Gary Simon. I was born in Norfolk, Virginia. However, I was raised in Anchorage, Alaska. A lot of people don't know that, but I spent my high school years mostly in Anchorage, Alaska. My father was in Norfolk. My mom had moved to Alaska to follow her sister up to Anchorage, Alaska in the 70s. So I graduated high school in Anchorage, moved to California, played football out in a little town called Coalinga, California, on a football little scholarship. And from there, I went to San Francisco State. And from San Francisco State, I came here to Sacramento. That was in 95, I think it was. I moved to Sacramento. So I've been in here in Sacramento since 95. Started out in politics. I moved to Sacramento. I worked for the late council member, Sam Pinnell. That was my first job. I was working on his reelection campaign. That was the first job. So we moved from there to working with Visit Sacramento. That's what it's called now. It used to be called the Sacramento Convention and Visitors Bureau, but it's Visit Sacramento. So I spent nearly 20 years with Visit Sacramento. We created the what we call the Multicultural Affairs Department at Visit Sacramento. So we were the director there for a good 15 years at that department, And then, of course, we started Juneteenth while I was there at Visit Sacramento. So that was in 2001. So 2001, we launched Juneteenth, started producing that as part of Visit Sacramento, as part of my responsibilities as the Director of Multicultural Affairs. From there, we left that. Well, actually, I left the bureaus in 2015, I believe it was. Made Juneteenth a nonprofit organization, took the helm of it and to run it full time. Also, in between that time, I worked for I was campaign manager for Councilmember Larry Carr. So did some political stuff in between just to eat every day, trying to keep it going. Running a nonprofit is tough. So we're still here. So, and Juneteenth, of course, we're coming up on our 20th year this year. So we've got a lot planned this year, and looking forward to kind of changing the script a little bit just to enhance or make that 20th year a special event, because it truly is.
Outstanding. Thank you. Love that. I definitely wanted to dive in a little bit more in a minute about just your time in the political spectrum in Sacramento, as well as Juneteenth. But first, I wanted to touch on you were raised in Alaska.
Right.
I am always fascinated, especially when I get to talk to people of color, specifically Black people, who are raised in areas where we don't typically see ourselves. So can you tell us about just growing up in Anchorage, Alaska, especially as an African-American male?
Well, it was cool. You know, I mean, the thing about Anchorage was, let's see, we got there maybe in 1972, 73, maybe about that time. So everyone from Anchorage was from somewhere else. Everyone in Anchorage was from somewhere else. So I didn't really experience the racism. The built-in racism wasn't there because there were no real natives or no real folks that were claiming it as their town or whatever. And here you black folks come because everyone was from somewhere else trying to make a better life. So you had to depend on one another. Basically, it's kind of how it worked out. It's kind of rough up there. They call it the last frontier. And it's those winters, it can get rough up there. So so we didn't experience that built-in racism. So I went to high school. My high school was maybe 2,000 kids. There was 5 black families in Anchorage, Alaska in the 70s, and we all knew each other and we all lived in the same area. But I enjoyed the upbringing in Anchorage because it was outdoorsy, it was all those things. And again, I didn't experience that racism until later. When I came to California is where I really got it in your face racism. Now I'm sure the racism was there, but then I was a child too. So, but we didn't experience it straight up in your face until I got to California.
Wow.
So it was good. I mean, of course, you got the 19 hours of daylight, right? So you got 19 hours. It doesn't get dark at all. So that was for a lot of folks to come up there. That was a big adjustment, but of course I was used to it. And then in the wintertime, you've got that 19 hours of darkness, which can get depressing. Even for us, it got a little rough being dark all the time.
Wow, that's interesting. I've heard a little bit about that. How in the summers it may not get dark until 10 or 11 o'clock at night.
Well, no, it won't. The darkest it will ever get is like at 6 a.m, dusk. That's the darkest it will ever get in the summertime. Yeah, but in the wintertime, we went to school at 9 a.m. It was dark. Got out of school at 3 p.m. It was dark. So you're only getting 5 hours of daylight during the wintertime.
Wow. So not a lot of suntanning happening in Alaska.
Right. No, definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
not.
You raise a great point, Gary, and you mentioned you didn't see a lot of the or your first taste of in-your-face racism, as you say, was when you moved to California.
Mm-hmm.
I think that speaks to perspective a lot. People typically think of California as this bastion of acceptance and progressiveness, and people in California would probably say, I never saw in-your-face racism until I moved to the South.
Right.
So it's interesting how your perspective and where you're raised
mm-hmm.
really plays a lot into what you see as, quote unquote, extreme or overt racism.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it depends on the situation. Or where you're coming from, because like I said, California, of course, we say it's liberal and everybody's just great and lovey-dovey. But where I was in California, which is a little cow town, Coalinga, those are cowboys. That's that rural California. So it was. Found out I was black then. Tell you that.
Yeah. Wow.
know.
I get to speak to a lot of friends, or a lot of friends after my time in the service. A lot of friends I have across the country, or in my work with my current organization. A lot of virtual calls with people throughout the country, and it's always interesting how people think of Sacramento and California as this very progressive, integrated place. Where if we just look at the numbers, the racial breakdown, it does look very progressive, very integrated.
Right.
But as I always tell people, there's a great mixture of different races and cultures in Sacramento, but we all live in our own communities. So we're still separated and somewhat segregated.
Mm-hmm.
There's just more Black communities, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, so
well, in 2001, Time magazine designated Sacramento as America's most diverse and integrated city. And that was a designation that I played upon, in my multicultural affairs as a selling point, talking about the diversity of Sacramento. And actually, we were able to recruit a lot of good businesses to Sacramento just because on that integration piece. But it's still, we still, like you say, we're separated. We're still segregated. We still are not integrated in all of the neighborhoods and the communities. What the integration comes about is because of the state jobs. I mean, because we're state-run organizations, so a lot of the companies or state-run organizations are doing the hiring of different people, but we still separate.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Tell us a little bit, Gary, about your role. You mentioned one of your first jobs when moving to Sacramento was working with Mr. Pinnell. Tell me about your work with Sam Pinnell and Larry Carr in politics, and specifically, what are some things that you learned that maybe were surprising to you or that you didn't know once you got heavily involved in local politics?
Well, working for Sam Pinnell was a real eye opener. The late Councilman Sam Pinnell, he was the go-to for the Black community. He was the go-to guy for the Black community, and I mean that by if you had a problem with anything, I mean, folks from city messing with your garbage, ain't picking up your garbage cans or anything city related, everybody came to Sam Pinnell. And Sam would go in there, man, and he'd make some changes, He was a real advocate for the community, and I mean the Black community, and everybody was going to Sam. Sam was the guy. I was on the front end of that, and I'm really appreciative of that. So I moved here to work on his reelection campaign. He was running for his second term in office, and I was able to get out in the community. I was the guy on the ground. Get the flyers out, get the people to the events, do some of the fundraising, get on the phone, the whole thing. It was an awesome experience. Sam was he was a good guy, and you have to excuse my birds are chirping. Can you hear my birds? They're chirping away, man.
That's a peaceful sound. I like it.
But Sam was he was the godfather, man, and I learned a lot. I learned that the political game is a real game, and we don't know, as a people, we don't know that game. I call it a game. I declare everything's a game. That game is another game that we have not been versed in, don't know the rules to. So until you learn the rules of that game, then you won't get the rest of it, because the politics lead into the economics lead into the social stuff, and all of these things roll around with economics and power, and that's what the political piece is about. It's about the power.
Yeah, I love that. You mentioned, especially I want to touch on that. The as you mentioned, it is a game, and there's a lot of things in life that would probably fall under that category, whether you call it a game or a way of doing things or whatever that may be.
Right.
And I think a lot of times, some of us who may be disenfranchised people or communities, feel that we don't want to be involved in it because it's a game, but just because we don't want to be involved doesn't mean the game stops playing.
That's right. That's right. The game continues. The game continues. Yeah. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have any part on that? When was the Sam and Bonnie Pinnell Community Center constructed? Was that in the 90s?
That was, it was, the center was Sam. Let me see. I'm trying to think now. Sam had started building that community center before I got here. So the center was constructed. It had to have been early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah. So because I know it was named. So then when Bonnie got into office, they named it Sam and Bonnie Pinnell Center. Right. So I was there. I got there. So the center was up. The center was up when I got here. So that had to be the early 90s, and I got here in 95. So.
Okay, I was trying to recall when it was constructed. The years are flying by as we get past our 50s and beyond.
True enough.
Like, man, that was in the 90s. I was an adult back then.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, amazing. So I'm curious, Gary, what are your thoughts? As we just mentioned, the game of politics. What are your thoughts, recommendations, just your opinion on how we as Black people, as African Americans, how can we get more involved in the local politics? How can the average citizen, whether it be running for office as a city council member, which of course requires a lot of fundraising, connections, etc.
Right.
What are some different ways we can get involved in that game?
Well, for me, the easiest way to do that is to identify a campaign. By that, I mean someone running for school board, someone running for city council, or any type of opportunity, and to go and engage yourself into that process. So if you don't want to run for something, of course you have to learn before you can run out there and say, I want to run for city council. So go to someone that's running for city council and volunteer your time for that person, or somebody that's running for whatever, and go and volunteer your time so you can see how it works. And from there, you can get more engaged relative to positioning yourself to be able to get into leadership and or to just learn how it works. I mean, we have to learn how it works and get involved to really make changes and to and put ourselves in power. You know what I mean? Yeah, we have to get to the table.
Yeah, that's great. That's I think that's very well said. Whether it's an internship, whether it's just volunteering, whether it's a part-time job, get in the door.
Right. In the door. Go check it out first. I mean, get involved. Like my uncle told me, well, I had first job. He's like, well, what you gonna pay me? Well, uncle, how much am I getting paid? He say, well, what do you know how to do? You don't know how to do nothing. You know what I mean? So we can't expect to get paid. Go out there. I need a paid partnership or paid internship. No, go in there and learn something first, and then you can get paid.
Yeah. When I work with young people, that's one of the things I always like to mention is, instead of asking for that job, which there's no shame in that, asking for a job, but show someone you can bring value to them at no cost first. I mean, number one, that builds that trust. Hey, I'm not looking for, just let me have an opportunity to volunteer with you or with your organization. That speaks volumes. That's how a lot of people just get their foot in the door.
That's it. Yeah, you're benefiting yourself when you volunteer. You're learning something,
Yeah. Gary, speaking of volunteering, like with city council members, as one way that we as community members, as Black and African American community members, can be involved in our community or the local politics. If I'm not mistaken, are the current elected city council members, and I may be wrong in this, but I believe for the first time, 50% of the city council, counting the mayor, is women, or maybe slightly more than 50%. In any event, do you foresee a day maybe in our lifetimes where the majority of city council members are African American, or does it take us getting involved more before that?
Yeah, I think we have to get more involved. More involved, and of course, city council breaks down to different neighborhoods or different districts. So depending on the majority of the folks in each district, is basically the representation is going to be look like most of the folks in that district are. At one time, you have to remember we had 3 city council members when Alan Warren, Bonnie Pennell, Larry Carr, and Rick Jennings. So that was 4 right there. And then it was the mayor. So that was 5. 5 out of the 8. You know what I mean? So that was 5 of us. Mayor Johnson. Yeah, Mayor Johnson was there. So that was 5.
Oh, that's right.
So it can happen. You know what I mean? It can happen. It's just a matter of getting involved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Getting involved and then working your way through the system, and we can do it. We can do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. That's good. I'm gonna put you on the spot here a little bit. What's your least, or what was your least favorite thing about working in the political circle or in politics, other than the fact that it's a game, which can be a positive or a negative? But was there one thing that really was your least favorite thing about being involved in politics?
Man, I can't say that there was nothing that I didn't like about it, because I understood what it was, or I understand how it goes. I mean, of course, I don't understand. I don't like some of the end results or some of the processes. But if you understand it, you kind of can foresee that those end results and those negative processes that are going to happen or that will happen. It's like, do you not like the rules of football? Well, yeah, there's some rules I don't like, but overall, I still like it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I feel about politics, because I understand the rules of it. You know what I mean? And there's some bad things that can happen if you mess up or break this rule or whatsoever. But there's nothing that I can point to say that I don't like politics because of, I don't like that.
I love that. That's very well said. And you make a great analogy with football. And I was thinking of parenting as well. I mean, there were a lot of dark days or frustrating days, just raising kids. But at the end of the day, there was nothing that I didn't like about it, because I learned something from everything. Right. And just going in, that this is going to be my child for decades, and I'm going to be raising them for at least 2 decades. That's right. So this is all part of the process, even the bad things. It's part of that process.
That's right. That's right. And I have a 16-year-old daughter too, Layla Renee, and my daughter has special needs. So so dealing with that that made me have to dig deep also. You know what I mean? Because like I say, that's your child, man. You down forever. You know what I mean? Until you're gone. You know what I mean? So. So the child analogy is definitely good, man, because you roll with it, the good, bad, and the ugly.
Yeah.
You're in there. You're in there.
Yeah,
so it's good.
That's one of the many great things I've learned about being a father. It's before being a father, I thought maybe I had this much love to give,
right?
And then once you have kids, you're like, man, I have never loved something like this.
That's right. That's
a whole
right.
other level.
That's right. That's right, man. And always will,
Yeah, very true. Very true. Mm-hmm. You had an opportunity, I would imagine, at Visit Sacramento to work with Sonia Bradley.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking, very good friend of my wife and I's. And I used to work in an organization called Pro Youth and Family. So she was a very inspirational leader. I believe she's been promoted in the past couple of years, if I'm not mistaken, to a lead role at Visit Sacramento, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, she's she was the chief marketing officer. Now she's vice president of diversity, equity, and inclusion, if I have that right.
Yeah. Actually, great people.
Oh yeah. Her family, her mom. I work with Sonia at Visit Sacramento, but her parents, Dorothy and Mr. Bradley, they hold down our information desk at Juneteenth for the last 15, 16 years.
Wow.
So they've been with us. Her mom and daddy have been with us for as long as she has.
Yeah. Wow. Hey, tell us a little bit more, Gary, about your role at Sacramento Juneteenth Incorporated. What does the organization do? More specifically, and what's the sort of the mission and the vision of the organization?
Well, Sacramento Juneteenth Inc. is an educational and health wellness organization. So we definitely want to promote the African-American experience in America, as well as the contributions that Africans have made, but while also celebrating the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation. That is what Juneteenth is in a nutshell. But we produce the annual festival, but we also do health, wellness, and educational programs throughout the year. So education, health, wellness, and then the big festival is what we do. So matter of fact, in January, we're doing what we call the MLK essay contest. And then in February, Black History Month, we're going to do an art contest. And then in April, we'll partner with VSP to do what we're calling an eye health clinic. So we have VSP bring the bus out, and you can sign up and get free eye exams, lenses, and the frames, all within the hour or whatever it takes for you to be there. So we try and keep the education and health wellness, and then we cap it off every year with the festival. So we'll do programs every 4 months leading into June, and then October we'll start another, and then start that cycle over again. So that's what we do, man. So we do these educational and health wellness programs, and you can go to our website, Sacramento Juneteenth Inc.org for that calendar of events. And like I say, January, February, March, May, and then June. We got some events going on. Matter of fact, I've got my promo flyer for the MLK essay contest right here. So, but you can go to our website and get that information of Sacramento Juneteenth Inc.org.
Love that. Love that. Once again, that's Sacramento Juneteenth Inc.org, all spelled out.
Right.
Perfect timing for us to be having this interview as we lead into the opening of those Juneteenth celebrations.
Yes, sir.
Leading up to June.
Yep. January 19th. Yeah.
Yeah. The annual festival, is it every year on January 19th? I'm sorry,
No.
June 19th?
No, it varies. It's always the third weekend. It's always
Okay.
the 13th weekend. So in 2023, it'll be this June 16th through the 18th. And of course, we start on that Friday night with the Juneteenth Gospel Under the Stars concert, Friday night, the 16th. Last year, we had an all-star reunion. So we brought back a lot of the old school folks that have been with us on our gospel concerts throughout the years. James Jackson, Yardley Griffin, and the Friday night was awesome. So we'll do that. We'll do the Friday night gospel from 6 to 9. Saturday, we go from 11 to 6. But we'll do our run walk parade at 9 a.m. on Saturday, the 17th of June. That starts about 9 a.m. We do a run walk parade with Black Men Run. And this year, we're going to do a benefit with the State Council on Disabilities. So we're going to do a little run walk benefit with them. Black Men Run would be a part of that. And then we'll roll into the festival at 11 a.m. and do, of course, all the vending pieces, the 2 stages of live entertainment. This year being our 20th year, we're going to try to get a semi-headliner. So we're looking at some names we're throwing around. We typically like to save that platform for local groups. But this year being our 20th, we want to bring in a little headliner, semi-headliner, not nothing too big, but semi-headliner, just to spice it up a little bit and get the folks out there. But we also we'll always have our arts and educational theater, which is basically a big 20 by 20 where we do the educational historical seminars on the hour, as well as Black history exhibits specific to Blacks during the gold rush. That happens in the educational theater. Health and wellness row. So we have all the health related resources out there, the Sutters, the Anthems, the Kaisers, all those folks out there. Then of course, all the food is going on, and then our local businesses, Black businesses are out there. Last year, I think we had 90 vendors at Juneteenth last year. So it's we're happy about it, man. We've been able to keep it going, And of course, now that the designation has come out, now we've got like 5 Juneteens in Sacramento now, but which is all right. But we're going to keep doing what we're doing,
Yeah. When you say the designation, Gary, are you referring to the fact that what was it in 2020, I believe, when the federal government now recognizes Juneteenth as a federal holiday? Okay.
Right. Joe Biden recognized it as a federal holiday. I think it was some 21, I think maybe. But yeah. So now, the ball is rolling. The word is out. So that's a good thing. And but we like I said, we're doing 20 years in this year. So we're excited about that. So we're ramping up.
Yeah. I definitely don't want to take away from any other organization that is currently now recognizing Juneteenth. However, I would make a pitch for everyone to always go with the original. So Sacramento Juneteenth Inc. They've been doing this for a couple of decades. So they're not new to this now. This has been made a federal designation. So so this year again, everyone mark your calendars, June 16th, 17th, and 18th.
Yes, sir.
Gary, is it typically held at the same location, or if not,
Yes,
where would
William
you?
Land Park. William
Oh,
Land Park. We've been in William Land Park now for about 15 years. When we first started, we were over in Granite Regional Park. That was they didn't have any trees over there, man. It was a little hot, so we had to
yeah.
we had to get to them trees. So we've been in William Land Park for the last 17 years or so.
Yeah. That's a great spot. I'll just say, for those of us who grew up in Oak Park or the South Sacramento area,
Yeah.
in the 70s, remember that William Land Park was the place where you had your family get-togethers and
Oh yeah.
gatherings. So such a mature neighborhood, very huge park also. So
Oh yeah, and it's beautiful, man. And
yeah,
I know when I was here, and used to roll through used to ride the circle. Everybody on Sunday, I think used to ride the circle,
yeah,
hang out, and all that. Yeah,
yeah.
so, I remember
Man,
those days too. So,
I
but
think
yeah,
that
William
continued
Land Park.
even into the 80s. I remember being in high school, and that was the spot on Sunday afternoons.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
always cruise around that circle by Sac City College.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, great spot there. Gary, what would you say is one thing that a lot of people don't understand or maybe misunderstand about Juneteenth?
Well, we don't understand. We don't understand or the history or the reason for Juneteenth. I mean, it's amazing that a lot of us, and I mean, a lot of us don't know the history. Let me just say
Yeah.
that. The history is that on June 19th of 1865, the Union Army went to Galveston, Texas, and declared all of those folks in Galveston, Texas were free. So that's where Juneteenth started. But Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, 2 years prior to that, right? So, but when he signed the Emancipation Proclamation, that was really for all those enslaved in the South so that they would go and fight for the Union Army.
Yep.
So it really just encompassed those in the South, but it still applied to everybody. But that was really his intention, was for those in the South, but it applied for all those enslaved.
Yeah.
So that history, and then the 13th Amendment came about in 1863, which freed everybody. So the 13th Amendment, which outlawed slavery, is what outlawed all of the slavery with the 13th Amendment, which happened later. But the fact that we don't know that history. I mean, a lot of us don't know that history. And what is Juneteenth? I mean, I teach over at Sacramento High School. I substitute teach over there. So what's Juneteenth? Yeah, I don't know. You know what I mean? So of course I educate them on that. But you know what I mean? And the only reason, strangely enough, only reason I knew Juneteenth was because in Anchorage, Alaska, we celebrated Juneteenth every year.
Wow.
In Norfolk, Virginia, we didn't celebrate Juneteenth. Of course, they didn't want to celebrate Negroes being free. You know what I mean? In the first slave state. So I didn't know anything about Juneteenth in the South. I learned about Juneteenth living in Anchorage, Alaska, where we went to Juneteenth every year as a kid. You know what I mean? And that's how I knew Juneteenth.
Yeah.
And, but I didn't learn it. You know what I mean? Like I said, in the lower 48, as we call it. I learned it in Anchorage, Alaska. My mother told me, you know what I mean, but told me about it. But we don't we don't know the history. And I think that applies to, we don't know a lot of our own history. All we know is what we've been told.
Right.
When we've got YouTube will break down our history so quickly for you. You know what I mean? You don't even have to read a book. You can sit there and look at video and learn more about ourselves than a 50-year-old, myself included, would have learned in school.
Yeah. That's fascinating. First of all, kudos to you. I love the fact that you are still teaching and giving back at Sacramento High School. I'm a graduate of Sac High, class of '87, so I definitely am happy to hear that there's especially in light of the fact when I was at Sac High in the 80s, 84 to 87, I don't remember a black male teacher.
Oh wow.
So super excited to have you substituting there.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. I work with young people also in my current organization, and that's one thing we talk about a lot is, some of our history has been stripped and cleansed,
Hmm.
so to speak. And oftentimes, we talk about, this was never taught to us, which is an absolute fact. However, with the advent of this super internet we have, everything can be learned. You can absolutely, as I tell my kids all the time, use your smartphone for smart stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
You have no excuse not to know. You know what I
None.
mean? There's no reason not to know. That's what I tell kids at school. Google's a beautiful thing. So there's
Yeah.
no reason for you not to know.
Right. Right. I also tell everyone, it's a little analogy I make, your connections, as you mentioned in politics, getting to know people, getting your foot in the door. And I always tell kids I work with, it's kind of like Google. Google is probably known as this knowledgeable tool that
Right.
knows everything. But quite honestly, Google doesn't know a thing. If you search for something in Google, it tells you 100 other people that know about this thing, essentially by giving you 100 websites to go, well, I don't know it, but I know someone who does know it. And it's
Right.
sort of similar, making those connections. You know someone who knows someone who knows, and that's kind of what Google does.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's
yeah,
the key. I used to call it the middleman. Be the middleman on
yeah,
everything. Be the middleman.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, so
yeah,
true, so
yeah.
true. What drew you into teaching at the substitute level?
I coached there. I used to coach at Sacramento High School. I
Oh,
coached basketball at Sacramento High School. This is when I was working at Visit Sacramento. Brian Mitchell was the basketball coach at Sacramento High School.
yeah.
Okay.
He coached the girls for a little while also.
Yeah. All right. So
Yeah.
Brian, so I had went down to the Salvation. I just moved to Sacramento, and I went down to the Salvation Army to see little Daryl Roberts and had the little the basketball league at the Salvation Army.
Yep.
So I went down there and watched a couple teams, and then turns out they were looking for a coach. So I was like, yeah, I'll coach some kids, and
Yeah.
didn't know, I had coached before that from the Bay Area. So anyway, so they gave me the bad news bears, man. So they gave me all the kids that didn't make the team, right? so I got all the bad. I got the bad news bears, and we ended up winning that doggone tournament, man.
Wow.
Brian was coaching, Charles Kidd was coaching, all these supposed coaches, and I ended up beating their tail, man. And so
Yeah.
Brian offered me a job after that. That's how I
Wow.
started working for Brian Mitchell. Brian said, hey, man, I need a freshman coach. So I started
Wow.
working. I became the freshman coach at Sac High. That was in 97. So
Interesting.
from 97 to 2001, I was the freshman basketball coach over at Sac High.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did that, man. This is while I was still working a full-time job at Visit Sacramento. But
Yeah.
my boss was cool. He was a basketball fanatic. So I'd leave work at 2:00, 3:00, you know what I mean? Whatever. Go to
Right.
games. He was cool with it. So yeah, man. So I did that stint. So then when I left Visit Sacramento, this is 10, 15 years later, then I would say, well, let me go get me let me take that CBEST and get me a substitute credential just because when I launched out there on my own, I was like, well, I gotta eat sometime. So let me get some I get some money coming in here every now and then, right? So that was a subbing thing. So I ended up at Sac High. So once I went over there, I was like, boom, okay, I don't need to go nowhere else. So
I
I've been
love
there
that.
on and off for years now. Yeah.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
My
man.
my wife took the CBEST about 10, maybe 15 years ago, and she just started substituting now in the Natomas
Okay.
district. And both of you are kind of inspiring me. Just knowing that I don't know, what is it, less than 2% of the nation's teachers are Black males.
Yeah. Yeah.
And as a way to still connect with kids, and also as we get nearer to retirement age, that's something
Yeah.
I would love to do. So it's inspiring me to look into taking the CBEST as well.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's cool. You know what I mean? The kids will keep you young, man. They keep you on your toes too,
Yeah. We have two older daughters around the house now. But we have a high school daughter as well, which is kind of making me think, do I want to do elementary school, maybe middle school?
Yeah. No, I had to go to the high school, man. I couldn't. The little ones, that's too much energy, man. Too much.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I do know teachers come home from teaching elementary kids and they're exhausted.
Oh yeah,
So,
no, not for me. Not for me.
yeah. So you were still at Sakai during the tail end of or maybe right in the middle of the Swafford, Derek Swafford years.
Oh
Huh?
yeah. I worked with Derek too. Yeah. I worked for
Okay.
Derek for a while so Brian left. So my first year, I was working for Brian, and then that second year, Derek came in. So I coached under Derek for like 3 years under Swafford's program.
Okay.
Yeah. So matter of fact, me and Swafford's still cool now. He's over at Fortune, and so I get his kids come over and help me with Juneteenth every year as well.
Yeah. That was some great insight on Brian Mitchell's part also to see, man, this cat took these kids.
Yeah, man.
with the road, and he beat us. I should have him on my staff.
Hey, and I always tell that story too, because them cats, man, they just gave me the bad news bears, you know. And we made it work. We made it work.
I love that. Well, Gary, as we wrap up here, man, is there anything else you want to discuss or share, or any plans or projects?
Well, yeah, I've got some things going, but I want to commend yourself and Miss Rolanda Wilkins, Sister Rose. She's been at it for a long time, and she's been doing her thing with these young ladies, and let's see, for as long as I can remember, she's been going and pushing, steady pushing, taking these girls on those trips and so forth. So, Miss Rolanda Wilkins, we commend you and your work, and Brother Demetrius for what you're doing with the program, the podcast. It's a good thing, man. But all I can say is y'all keep pushing, man. We like I said, we old soldiers now. We the old soldiers, so we got to keep pushing. And then my whole thing for me, man, I should have roped in a lot of these youngsters a long time ago. Is the way that's my thing that I'm trying to change. Well, I'm changing that. But as I was coming through the ranks, when I really didn't think I knew enough to be trying to teach somebody else, I really should have. You know what I mean? Y'all can learn right along with me. You know what I mean? But I think that's what we've got to do. We got to rope these youngsters in and keep pushing as we do what we do, continue to do what we do to help the rest of us.
Yeah, I love that. Never giving up on the younger generation, because too many in the educational system or throughout the country are giving up on our kids. We absolutely want to make sure that we don't do the same. So,
yeah, man. Yeah. We have to, they are the future. You know what I mean? They are the future. Got to teach them, school them.
Yeah, super excited. Also, I definitely want to give a shout out to Rolanda Wilkins as well. I was, super flattered when she, asked me to consider hosting a podcast where we interview local Black men who are doing some great things. So very flattering, and definitely would have loved to have had the opportunity to meet her back when my older daughters were younger, to get them involved in her system. So Before I let you go, Gary, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about we're entering 2023, very close to having a presidential election very soon, and we know what some of our options might be on one side, and on the other side we have a gentleman who is we're wondering if he's going to make it through these 4 years, let alone the next 4. So just kind of want to get your thoughts, without getting too heavily into backing one side or another, but just get your overall thoughts on the upcoming presidential election.
Oh man, it's a mess. It's a mess. I think Trump has brought out this undercurrent. He's released this undercurrent of American society. And when I say undercurrent, I'm talking about the racists, I'm talking about the ones that feel like they're going to be replaced. All that old rhetoric from all that nationalism type of stuff. So he's released that in America, and that's a threat. That's a problem. That is going to be a problem. So therefore, Trump is going to be a problem. I don't think that Biden is capable of doing another term. He's a little too old for that.
Yeah.
The Republicans, DeSantis, he's going to be just as bad as Trump, in my opinion. So I think for the Democrats, who I think would be a good choice would be Gavin Newsom. I think Gavin Newsom. I've been watching Gavin Newsom for a long time, and Gavin Newsom, he's steady. I mean, I haven't. I wouldn't vouch on him or nothing like that, but I'm feeling that he's he'd be a good candidate. I think. From a Democratic standpoint, but I think we're in trouble, man. I think we're in trouble. You got this cat lying about everything, Santos. This cat lied about everything, and they still won't expel him. Won't even deny him a seat. Like, it's okay. You can lie, be a fraud. I mean, we're in trouble, man. I mean, the ethics have gone out the window. The Republicans that were back in the coup, all that came out, and they still are in Congress. They still in the Senate. From Graham on down to Perry, all of them cats, Jordan, all of them cats need to be expelled, man. Because now remember, during the Civil War, all the Confederate senators were expelled from Congress. They expelled them out of the Congress. I mean, because basically you were traitors. You tried to coup on the United States government. So that's what should happen to these guys that helped Trump with this coup. These current senators, current congressmen, they should be expelled.
Yeah.
But they're not even talking about that. They're not even talking about that. You know what I mean? Just Marty, Jordan Green, all of them. You know what I mean? But so we're in trouble. We're in trouble. The rules don't apply anymore. So now there are no rules of engagement anymore, man. So now it's all in turmoil. Remember we talked about the game? Trump came in and changed the game. So now there are no rules.
None.
I mean, how can this cat that lied about everything, Santos, how can he even still be considered for a seat?
Right. It's scary.
Yeah, it's like, man, you out, So so I think we're in trouble politically, man, and it's going to be take some turmoil to bring it back to where it was, or it's going to go somewhere else that no one knows, and it's not going to be good.
No doubt. I was listening to what you said, Gary. You mentioned DeSantos and Marjorie Greene. I would even throw Herschel Walker in there. I think Trump has made the playbook to where as long as you keep the base and all these people who are coming up from the underground now, where it's okay to be racist and hate other groups, as long as you can keep them scared of what could happen if the other side takes control, you can lie, say, do whatever you want to do. Herschel Walker, DeSantos, Marjorie, they say anything, and you come back with proof. I got receipts. This is what happened to you. They say, oh, well, that's just, it's amazing.
Oh yeah,
that how much they have just turned this country into just fear the other side.
Oh yeah,
that's our goal.
Yeah,
That's you're right. It's definitely scary. Definitely scary.
Yeah. Man.
I think I just have my own little theory. The reason why they are a little loath or dragging their feet on expelling these members of Congress, I think the left and maybe even some moderates are fearful of what would happen if they did that. I think they see like another January 6th. If we expel these people, their base, what are they going to do? How are they going to react violently? I think there's fear. That's kind of what we live on now, just fear.
Right. Yeah. Well, you got to remember too now. They're playing the same game. They're just wearing different jerseys.
Yep.
So they don't want to destroy the game.
Nope.
Right?
That's yep.
They don't want to destroy the game.
Right.
Right. Because they still are playing.
Right. We want to do it differently than that side is doing it.
Right. They don't want to ruin the game. I still want to play. But I'm just on other different teams, So they're not going to destroy. They're not going to really hurt the system. They're not going to hurt the system.
Yeah.
They all benefit from the system.
They all benefit from it.
Right.
Man, you're spot on, Gary. All the more reason, back to our, one of the topics we touched on at the beginning of the show is, we got to get involved. We got to get involved in politics, even at the local level.
Yeah, man.
especially at the local level, I would say.
Especially at the local level.
One other quick question before we close out, Gary. Just curious, how your thoughts on how immigration has impacted Black American life?
Well, okay, so it's funny you bring that up because I had been hearing that argument for years that all these Hispanics and stuff are hurting the Black people. You know what I mean? It's going to hurt Black people, and I didn't see it. I didn't catch it initially, and I still don't, kind of, sort of, but it's too many people, man. it's you know what I mean. The bottom line is it's just too many people rolling in. You know what I mean. It's a lot of people that are just coming into the country, man. And so, how is the system can't support it? I mean, I mean, logically, just in its purest form, way too many people, something's going to be out of balance. And most of those folks are coming over and they're getting the benefits and they're living off the system, what we call welfare and all that, and they're getting all these benefits and the free resources and all those things, right? So we got to account for that. There's got to be a balancing act. You know what I mean? And I don't think that the government is making the economic adjustments to accommodate, because they don't want to. They don't want to accommodate these people, first of all. So they're definitely not putting more money into the system to help these people, the immigrants. I don't mean to call them these people, my bad. But to help the immigrants that are coming in here. So it's going to break. The system is going to break, and it's going to be too many people. And then it's going to add to the he versus you versus me situation. It's going to create more problems. And of course, the only ones that are going to be fighting are the Black and the brown, going to fight over the crumbs. That's how it's going to come down. The Black and brown going to fight over the crumbs, as it always does, ends up, and keep our eye off of the real problem.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's definitely something we don't talk about. We don't talk about a lot, the impact that it has on Black American life as well. I'm always just curious on how we learn from history. Would you say these times do you see any similarities between our current times and maybe what was happening after the Civil War, or maybe even after the Civil Rights movement of the 60s? Do you see any similarities and anything that sort of gets you alarmed at what's happening today, just based on history? Because I like that saying that I think it was attributed to Mark Twain. I don't know who was actually responsible for it, but the saying that history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to remember during Reconstruction. Okay, so after the Civil War, then the U.S. went into what they call the Reconstruction era. This is in 1867 to 77. All right, so now we're going to reconstruct the South and that's where we got that term, give the Black people 40 acres and a mule. We had the Freedmen's Bureau, all of these things to make up for the wrong that was done, right? The Reconstruction era. So current times, what's happening today is kind of like the opposite of the Reconstruction, where they're trying to give back to the Black or to make up for the wrongs. Now they're trying to give back to the white to make up for trying to give back to the Black. So all those advantages that they gave to the Black, they're trying to take all those back now, right? And what's that? The critical race theory. We don't want you to teach. We don't want my little white kid to feel bad that he enslaved Black people. But what about all the years that you taught how I was a slave? How did the little Black kid feel sitting in the class? You know what I mean? So I don't want my little white kid to feel bad about that. And critical race theory to the what's the other thing that they're talking about now? The on how the voting. So now they're talking about what they're all putting it under They're taking the voting rights away too, but they're putting it all under auspices of teaching sexual equality. But that's not really what it is. That's just the cover point. The real issue is we don't want to teach the real history, the real American history. We don't want to talk about what we really did to Black folks and others. They don't want to tell that story is what it really is. So I think that current day is reverting back to, even during Reconstruction, they took all those rights back. Those Southerners that they confiscated all the land from those Southerners during Reconstruction. They ended up giving it all back to them. President Andrew Johnson gave it all back to them. So, and that's what created the Black codes and all of the Jim Crow laws, was a way for the South to regain their control of the South, or the whites to regain their control of the South. So they gave it all back to them. So now what this current system is doing is trying to give all that power back to the white folks. And that's why they're trying to take that power from the federal power and give it to the states, right? Because remember, the states were the ones the states are the problem.
Right.
The states are the problem. The federal government should be overseeing folks, but they try to take that power from the federal government so the states can run their state the way they want to. So that's exactly what they did during Reconstruction, gave that power to the states. So now that's why all those southern states, Jim Crow law, Black codes, got to work for a white boy, all those things. So
divide us even further.
Man. Divide and oppress us too,
Yeah, the critical race theory, or the whole opposition to it is really just what's not fascinating to me. But I should never be surprised anymore. But just the pushback that it gives. It's that feeling of we don't want our white kids to know what their grandparents really felt about Black people, what their great granddad and great grandma really felt about Black people. Sort of reminds me of those two famous photos from the 60s. One is of Ruby Bridges when she was integrating a school in the South, and you have all the U.S. Marshals who were the only people in the picture sort of quote unquote protecting her. And just as famous at the time was another photo, and I forget the young Black woman's name, but she was a 16-year-old walking to school, and there's an angry white mob of mostly women walking behind her, yelling at her, throwing things at her.
I've seen that picture,
The Ruby Bridges picture is more famous because the white people in that picture are seen as the heroes. It's just the U.S. Marshals, and they're quote unquote protecting her. They're walking out with her.
Right.
Whereas the other photo, that one's not nearly as famous because there's a bunch of angry white people in it. And that's the last thing we want current white America to be seeing. It wasn't us. We were protecting Black people. It's fascinating how that play on even just showing which photos you show, which ones become popular.
Well, most recently, Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones standing in front of the brothers trying to get into the school in Little Rock, Arkansas, right? So this cat, and then you got these Negroes on TV, Stephen A. and all them saying, "Oh, we can't hold him. They giving the boy a pass." And look, Jerry Jones ain't hired no Negroes up in that cowboy organization. Ain't no Black coaches, no Black nothing, no. You know what I mean? And so apparently. That meant something to him. Oh, he was only 14 then. Yeah, it carried over, obviously, because the boy about 90 now, and he still ain't got no Negroes over there.
Yeah. So just another fascination.
And that's we got to wake up, man.
For real.
they you can't be co-signing. Should nobody be co-signing on nothing like that, man.
Yeah, that's just another example. As I guess the defense of Jerry Jones was, hey, he was a young person. He was a teenager. We all make mistakes as teenager. The problem is we pay for it with our lives, whether it's Tamir Rice, name any Black male, you are responsible for your actions at 13, 14. Whereas this high school white kid in Arkansas, he was just a kid. So we all know how that goes. That's a whole nother story.
Well, you're 90 years old now, brother. Well, what have you done? What have you done since then, man? You got any Negroes over there now?
Still don't.
Nope. Still don't. Man, come on.
Speaking about helping others, one other question I wanted to ask you before you go, Gary, is just recently there was an African summit where a few weeks back where the U.S. president like back promising, or maybe the African Summit requested the United States help Africa by promise, $65 billion or something similar, and we've already given Ukraine almost that amount. Just what are your thoughts on that, or do you have any thoughts on that? Have you followed that story?
Man, yes, I have some thoughts on that. They should not be giving Ukraine no $54 billion, first of all. Well, let me not say no. Let me not say that. I don't think that it's justifiable to give Ukraine $54 billion now for their aid and so forth. When in this country, the homeless situation is completely out of control. That's a national emergency.
Yes.
For now, Ukraine, this is the same Ukraine that Trump tried to steal the money from to help him fight off Russia way back when, right? So now, but no one's talking about that. Trump tried to make the man, tried to hold the man's weapons so that he can get some dirt on Biden. You know what I mean? Just some shady stuff, man. But nobody's talking about that. And then the current White House turns around and gives Ukraine, after Russia invades, because basically that's why Trump held the weapons, so that Russia could go in there and tear their tail up, which they did. And now Biden wants to go get these people $54 billion. It's backwards. And the same with Israel. Israel should not be getting all this funding and support. And like you said, the Africa piece. Africa, the US, France, Spain, Germany, all these, and China at this point are all just raping the resources of Africa, and always have. Always just been a resource mining country for them. They go over and steal all of the people and all of the resources and leave the people destitute. And they pop up these governments, corrupt governments. I mean, let's just call it like it is. So I'll give one person a whole bunch of money as to justify me coming in and taking everything I want. And that's what creates that corrupt government in Africa. And and it's sad. And I don't know how you stop that, man. You know what I mean? I don't know how you stop that. That's my thoughts. It's a terrible thing.
Yeah, I would completely agree. And you're right. You haven't heard any, at least I haven't heard any huge backlash about what we've given Ukraine, because the story is spun to make it seem like this money, there's a return on investment, our safety, our democracy. No one questions that. But yet there was a recent report that said recently that California can cure the entire homelessness problem over the next few years at a cost of about $8 billion. Yeah. And everyone is having $8 billion for, which is just a fraction of what they gave Ukraine. Exactly. And ask the average person, how does that come back to help you or your community or your even family? And they could not explain it one bit. No. I could explain in a minute how not having homeless people in this state would greatly impact and improve our community.
Right. Having homeless people on the corner, that helps me a lot. You know what I mean? Put them people somewhere. Yeah.
I think the government does a great job of spinning things to help confuse the average American, or make the average American think that they should trust the government. The government's done a great job of how to do that. So
that's how you remain in power, man. You know, that's that psychological game, you know?
Yeah, so true. Last question here, Gary. I mean, I'd love this conversation, great in-depth conversation. But one of the questions I wanted to ask was just to get your thoughts on reparations and what should be our focus as Black people in 2023, in your opinion.
Man, now reparations. Okay, so reparations. Yes, we are owed a whole lot. Yes, we deserve a whole lot. And cash. If you're gonna do something, it's cash. I heard one pastor say, "I want some land." Pastor said, I want my 40 acres and some cash, right? And I was like, you know what? That is a good thing. That's a good thing. But I don't know how they're gonna formulate that distribution. That's
Right.
now.
Right.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't do it. That's not going to be the reason not to do it. But I'm just saying, I think now their figure is what 300,000 per person is what I've heard, or something like that. But yeah, we're old, man, and I don't know. I mean, we are old. America's wealth was built on the back of free labor, which is slavery, free labor. And to this day, the prison system, free labor. You know what I mean? The prison, as well as the school system, private schools, and all this, and private security that the government hires out, the Blackstones and all of these people, man. These are just people getting rich, you know. But reparations, I don't, you know what I mean? Yeah, we're old. Give it to us, you know what I mean? We deserve it. All the wealth, America's wealth is built off of the free labor. So how they figure it out, I'm with it. I definitely, you know what I mean? It's a good thing.
Yeah, I would imagine the total cost, if you, whatever that figure is, if you were to give it to every Black American, it's probably not going to be equal to what you gave Ukraine. So
yeah,
whatever that's worth.
Well, you got to remember, they atoned to the Japanese. I mean, remember they gave Japanese their reparations, and they gave the Native Americans their reparations. I mean, of course, it doesn't, very minimal amounts, but at least they made the gesture. But they haven't even attempted to make a gesture of giving us anything.
Yeah, which says everything.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Gary, man, it's been a pleasure chatting with you, getting to know you today, and conversation, which we touched on so many things. And I just want to thank you for your time, man. And I just love being able to do this show where I learn a little bit or a lot from everyone that I get to meet. So.
Well, same here, Brother Stone. Keep it up, man. It's comments. You know, this is the beginnings. You know what I mean? Conversations, because we can all learn from one another, man. And it's good to just vibe with somebody. So I appreciate you as well, brother.
For sure. Absolutely. Hopefully we'll get a chance to meet in person one day.
Yes, sir. I'm sure Sister Rolanda gonna make that happen, man.
Yeah, absolutely, sir. With that being said, man, have a very happy and safe and prosperous 2023.
And you too, man. And Happy New Year to you and yours.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right.